Hello, this is Deborah Yao with Black Education TV, and I'm going to be discussing tiny homes, the whole tiny home movement. It seems to be catching on in the black community as well because owning a big home with a large mortgage is just not the way to go anymore. A lot of people bought into large homes, big mortgages, and they did so without realizing the impact that it will have on their future. I did a video before where I talked about mortgage and what it actually means. It means death pledge. And so a lot of people are trying to opt out of this because you literally lock yourself into a lifetime commitment just to own a home that you really don't own, because if you don't make your payments, they will come and take it. Now, I hear those who talk about the whole idea of, well, you never really own land because they can take it because of taxes and things of that nature. The difference with the tiny home movement is once you build that structure, and if you have it built right, and if it's on wheels, you can move that home with you. You can take that home with you. A lot of people are having tiny homes built that are movable, portable. And so they can go literally travel the country and have their home in tow with them. You see, I think it's a great option because when you look on YouTube, there are a lot of people who are building tiny homes that are very affordable, and they ultimately own it free and clear. No strings attached, no mortgage, no anything. They own it free and clear. And they're a lot more solidly built than just a regular travel trailer. And so they provide permanent living for a lot of people. Some people have their tiny homes parked in their friend's backyard. They may lease a piece of land. They may go to an RV park or a trailer park or just any temporary type situation. There are even so-called tiny home communities that are developing around the country, because a lot of people are tired of living large and not being able to afford it. And especially if you're single, you don't need a whole lot of space. A tiny home provides you with ample space and storage and all the things that you need to live and survive in this ever-changing world where expenses are just going through the roof. What I'm happy to see is that a lot of so-called black people are jumping on this bandwagon as well. That's why I'm sharing these images that you see now, where more and more are saying, look, this is what I'm going to do. This is how I'm going to live my life. I'm not going to live my life in debt, wondering if the mortgage company is going to come and take my place, if I can't afford to pay it any longer. These are great options that are being presented right now. And I think more and more people, especially in the so-called black community, are going to start looking at this as an option. There are a lot of empty nesters where it's just a husband and wife, or just a single man or single woman who may not be able to afford conventional living. And so when you look at tiny home videos, even though I have a large family, I love looking at tiny homes and how they're put together, because there are a lot of people who feel like they're running out of options. And there are many options out there if you're willing to explore. Now, I have heard single people or small young couples say, well, no, that's too small. I've even heard individuals say that too. That's too small for me. I would feel too cramped. But when you're presented with fewer and fewer options, and it's becoming more and more expensive to live and buy a house and all of this, then you may consider this option at some point. Although it may appear to be cramped, but just imagine if, let me just throw this option out there. Imagine if you were able to buy just 2 acres of land. Many times you can grab 2 acres, 3 acres, 5 acres very, very cheaply, depending on what area you're trying to live in. You might be able to get 2 to 5 acres or even 1 acre for less than $10,000. And for some of you, that's your tax rebate or your tax refund, or that could be your savings. But get the land this year and slowly build on the tiny home, getting help where you can. I mean, I've seen women actually embark on a project like that all on their own. There was one woman whose video I looked at. She was twice divorced. And she said both divorces kind of like put a strain on her financially. And so what she decided to do, she said, okay, look, I'm tired of this having to get out of my house because I'm getting divorced or what have you. And now we have to split the house or whatever, split the dividends from the house. And so she decided that she was going to build her own tiny home. And I would say she looked like she was in her 50s. This woman looked like she was in her 50s, but she got her hammer, her nails, her wood, and her structures, and she just went for what she know. And she built herself a really nice tiny home. A really, really nice tiny home. You can start off with something basic at first, but when you think about your future and how expensive it is to live and how prices just seem to be going more and more through the roof, they're going up. And if this can be an option for you, even if you feel like it's too small, if you feel like it's something you don't want to do, just consider it. Keep it in the back of your mind as something that you may want to consider with all of these rising costs. That may be an option for you. I've seen some very impressive tiny homes, including the ones that you see, some of the images you see. I've looked at their videos, some of them, and they've built some very impressive structures. Even if you're a new family, just starting out, husband and wife, and you may only have one child, or you're about to have one child, this is a great option until you are able to do better. Even with 2 children, as your family grows, you can think of something different. But if you need time to save money and you haven't started the family yet, this is a great option. And when the time comes, if you need something bigger, you have this thing that you own free and clear that you can sell to someone else, which can be a possible down payment towards something bigger, or perhaps a down payment towards buying land, or maybe you can sell it to buy land and do something more permanent. Do something bigger than a tiny home, but still affordable. At this stage in the game, as we look around this country and see how things are playing out, how the dollar is shrinking daily, all of us are going to have to come up with other options. All of us are going to have to consider downsizing. It's kind of funny when you see articles pop up, abandoned mansions. It's funny when you look at these images of these big, beautiful houses, 5 and 10,000 square feet, where they're calling them abandoned mansions. Some of them have been empty for decades, some of them recently empty. This is because people are saying, look, it's too expensive trying to take care of this big monster, you know. And that may not be the case for everyone, but a lot of people are starting to wise up. And they're starting to say, look, we don't need this much space. It costs a lot of money to run this place, to heat it, to cool it. And especially if your children have moved out, a lot of people are saying, look, I got to do something different than this. When you think about living to pay for a place to live, meaning you're working just to pay for it, it starts not to make any sense at all to you. And so I was very inspired to look at these young people, look at these so-called black people who are grabbing hold of the tiny home movement as a way to look at the future, as a way of surviving, where they don't have to look at the possibility of being homeless anymore. I think it's something to consider, family. It may have to grow on you, but I would encourage you to look at some of the videos of what people are doing out here, how they're making it work. Just kind of shift your thoughts around. I know we like to have big and bad homes and cars, but that kind of stuff is playing out. It really is playing out, and we need to start being more realistic, especially if you have children that are about to be empty, not empty, but you're about to be an empty nester and your children are leaving. You may want to give them this as an option. show them the tiny homes and what they can do with them. Because when they get out here into the world and they start to pay high rents or high mortgages, they're going to feel like they're just throwing money down the drain. And if you can show them early on, hey, this may be an option for you. If you as a parent have land or space for them and they still want to feel like they've moved out on their own, let them park their home on your land, on your property. I've seen a number of situations just like that where a young couple, they want to buy a home. They can't afford it. They can't afford to buy land. So mom and dad say, hey, build your tiny home right here on our property. And they can stay there for many years while they're getting up on their feet, saving up their money. So if they want to do something different at some point, they can. And this affords them the opportunity to do that, because when you jump out into life, incurring all these big bills, car note, house note, taxes, insurance, all of this stuff, it's like before you even get your life started, you're going into it in debt, especially if you already have college debt. You'll feel like you're just living just to pay your debt. And that's no way to live. That's no way to start your life. So again, family, I hope this encourages you to consider something such as tiny homes. Once you build it, it's yours. No one can take it away. There's no mortgage attached to it. It is yours. Even if it's parked on a temporary situation such as a lot or in someone's backyard, at least it's yours. If you have to take it elsewhere, you can. Alrighty, family, and with that, I will say shalom.